If the QR code scanned is a static QR code that is perhaps displayed physically, the users will have to input the payment amount in Thai baht. If the merchant's PromptPay QR code is a dynamic QR code, then the payment amount in Thai baht will be filled in automatically, and the equivalent Hong Kong dollar amount based on the prevailing exchange rate will be displayed too. As mentioned by Mr. Lee, the user can see if they are happy with the exchange rate. After confirming the amount and the name of the merchant, if everything is all right, they can go ahead with the payment and complete it. There is an element of authentication that is involved. The users will only have to comply with the proposed suggestions. The maximum payment allowed is $10,000. This is proposed by the industry. So $10,000 will be the maximum transaction amount that can be paid per day. Now we have a short video explaining how we can use the FPS PromptPay. First, you have to scan the QR code. You have to enter the amount by yourself. After that, you will be able to see the exchange rates. After completion of the transaction, we will land on the page on confirmation of transaction. Depending on the settings of the users on their banking app, a notifications will be sent to the users.
咁我呢度有一個PromptPay 二維碼嘅樣。
This is a sample of the PromptPay QR code. The QR code would display the logo of PromptPay. There are 5 participating banks in Thailand providing these QR codes. They cover some 95% of the participating merchants of the PromptPay. For non-participating banks, the QR code may not work. Some small merchants in Thailand may be using their personal accounts to receive payments. They can generate their own QR code, but that is not a valid QR code for participating merchants. That is not a merchant's QR code, and that is not supported by our system. So that's all for me. I will invite Mr. Colin Powell to continue with the presentation about the fee and also smart tips for users. Thank you, Kitty. Now on fees or charges, this is something that many of us are concerned about. Now we can look at the fees for Hong Kong merchants. For Thailand tourists paying by PromptPay, it will not impose additional cost on the Hong Kong merchants. The Hong Kong merchants would be receiving the payments in Hong Kong dollars. No additional fees would be required on the merchant side. And the merchant doesn't have to do anything about the setting of his system. On the other hand, when it is a Hong Kong tourist making payments in Thailand via a Hong Kong bank's mobile app, what about the fees? Well, in the authentication process, an exchange rate would be displayed. The relevant fee is included in that exchange rate. So just now, you saw that the exchange and settlement service will be provided by the settlement and clearing banks. The cost is already covered in the exchange rate itself. For example, the risk and also the daily spread. and also the fee charged to you would be displayed in the app itself. So the exchange rate is the total amount. Sometimes if you are scanning the QR codes with different mobile apps, the exchange rate may be different because some banks may be offering competitive exchange rates to their customers. So that would also be clearly shown on the app. So finally, some tips for our customers. If you're using the system, please make sure that the mobile app on your phone is the most updated version. And please identify the PromptPay QR code and also the relevant banks involved. And also you have to pay attention to whether the small merchants is using their own personal QR code. That may not work if that's the case. Do remember that the maximum daily transaction limit is 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. And please, before making payment, verify the payment's details as well as the recipient before authenticating the payment. So that concludes our presentation. We will now take questions from the media. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now it is the Q&A session. Before you ask the question, please identify your media organization. The gentleman in white. Good afternoon. I'm from TMHK. About the daily maximum transaction limit, that is 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. In the next stage, would you consider increasing the limit? Also, will the linkage system be extended to Southeast Asian countries other than Thailand? In terms of security, what security measures will the HKMA put in place to guard against scam? Thank you. Thank you. About the daily limit of $10,000, that is an amount we have set after consulting the trade. That limit will cover most scenarios in the initial stage of the launch of the system. Depending on the uptake as well as the necessity, we will be willing to talk to the trade to see whether we have to further raise the limit. On security of transaction, the daily limit of 10,000 Hong Kong dollars is also a balance. Some users may even find the daily limit of $10,000 too high. For those users, they can set a lower amount in the individual mobile apps of their banks. We are open to extending the scheme to other countries. Like FPS, we will take it gradually. If the user's experience in Thailand is positive, then we will explore linkages with other countries. On scams, yes, we have to be careful. As I mentioned, $10,000 Hong Kong dollar is a security measure to minimize the loss. And users themselves have to pay attention as well. After scanning the QR code, the users should check whether the payment amount is as shown on the price tag. I think the use scenarios will mostly be in-person trading, so the risk will be controlled. Thank you. I'm from Cable TV. For the first stage, the scheme will only cover merchants' QR code. Will the scheme be extended to personal QR code? As you have mentioned, there are lots of individual small merchants in Thailand, so maybe that would be even more convenient if personal QR code is allowed. And also you said that you are allowed to pay with various e-wallets. So does that mean that the accumulated transaction amount can exceed $10,000 per day? Is that a loophole? Maybe I will invite Kitty to take the second question on whether we will accept personal QR code. Well, that depends on the discussion between the both sides. As you can see, some banks chose not to participate. Those are mostly banks dealing with individual clients. The idea is to facilitate purchase made by visitors on both sides. So we think the merchant's QR code would cover most transaction needs. Well, for individual or personal QR code, because of the sheer number, it is rather difficult to make distinction between merchants' QR codes or personal QR codes, and also which transaction goes to which. So I think we have to have more discussion on that possibility. And also for personal QR code, it may be very hard for Hong Kong tourists to make a distinction between a merchant or an individual's QR code, especially when the scheme is just launched. If you take out your phone and use your e-wallet to scan the QR code, and then you receive a message that that is an invalid code, then most likely that would be an individual QR code, or that is a code from a non-participating bank. Then after one or two tries, you will give up. That doesn't mean that there is a problem with our system. That only means that the QR code is not supported. I think very soon there will be information kit available on the internet about that. Now, the transaction limit is based on the account. That is a risk measure taken by the bank themselves. Well, is that a loophole? I don't think so. We're not trying to stop Hong Kong tourists from spending in Thailand. We're not trying to do that. If that is the case, we would limit the number of e-wallets they can use. This is just a risk-based approach. We want to prevent scammers from taking away a large sum of money from the customers. Well, for different accounts, you will set different passwords. So there are layers of security measures.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael. Can we only make use of the system with internet connection? How do we receive SMS? I mean the OTP. After payment, will there be an SMS notification notifying that the Hong Kong tourists that the transaction has been completed? Do we have to activate the overseas transaction function on our app? Also, there is one of the banks that is also note issuer that have not participated in the scheme. Do you understand the reason why it is not participating? There are some large e-wallets that are not covered in the system. Perhaps it's not appropriate for you to tell us the reason why. Can you give us a direction? Do they have their own ways to conduct cross-boundary transaction? That is why they are not participating. Is it done through RTGS? Is there any settlement risk? Perhaps I invite Kitty to take the rest of the three questions. I will answer the first two questions. Yes, you need internet access. This is not a physical payment, so you need internet access, and there will be notification. The form of notification may differ among different banks and e-wallet applications. Some people choose different modes of operations, and some users opt out of and receiving any notifications. So users will have to check their settings. If you have internet access, then you will be able to receive in-app notification or email notification. As for SMS, I believe that most people will be able to receive SMS notifications as long as your SIM card is activated. You can receive SMS from Hong Kong. Unless you take the SIM card out of your phone and replace it with a different one, then you may not be able to receive notification. But please pay attention to the mobile network that you're using and the settings that you have done on your banking app. So it's important for you to check your settings on your bank applications and your e-wallet. As to whether or not you have to activate the service on your bank app and e-wallet, it depends. Perhaps you will have to consult your bank or check your wallet. For participating banks and e-wallet operators, well, they joined the scheme on a voluntary basis. They made their decision based on their commercial considerations. Some banks said that they are interested. When resources allow, they will join the scheme in the future. I'm not sure if I fully understand your question. Are you asking if all transactions can be settled in real time? It's the same as FPS. As long as the customer has made the payment, the deduction is made instantly from the bank account of the customer. Thank you. Michael asked a very technical question. He asked if the transaction is done through RTGS. It's not. FPS has a separate system. It's not done through RTGS. Thank you. I have some simple questions. You have said more than one time that you offer competitive exchange rate. In the testing period, how competitive? Have you found out how competitive your exchange rate is? We have a $10,000 limit. When we want to make payment in Thailand, can we ask our banks to raise our limit? And do Thai visitors have any limit when they come to Hong Kong? For small merchants in Thailand, they may deceive us with a bogus QR code because scammers are very high-tech. Kitty said that the limit is based on accounts, but most customers have integrated accounts. If they have a joint name account along with an individual account, can they spend, say, $20,000 in Thailand? I'm not sure I understand under what circumstances I will have to enter the amount. Perhaps I take the last question and then Colin or Kitty can answer the rest of the questions. So as long as you see a paper or the printed QR code, it will be a static QR code. If you see a device or that the merchant hand you a device showing a QR code on screen, then that would normally be a dynamic QR code. After scanning, you will see if you need to enter the amount. Say if you buy something that is of 100 QR code, if you scan a static QR code, then you have entered the amount. But if you are using the dynamic QR code, the amount in Thai baht will already have shown on the screen, so you don't have to enter that. That's the same case with all forms of payment. Please make sure that the information on the screen are correct before you confirm your payment. I'm not sure about your train of thought. The merchant will not put a board with QR code of other people to collect money for other people. If you're not buying anything, why would you scan the QR code? I understand your question. Do not click on just any link, as Arthur said all the time. Do not click on just any link or scan any QR code you see. There has to be a reason before you scan a QR code. You should not just scan any QR code on the street. So after you have bought something or eaten something, you will have to pay, and then only then you will have to scan a QR code, and you have to confirm the amount on screen. If that's correct, then you make the payment. All these measures are to protect yourselves from being deceived. There are some other questions.
About the favorable or competitive exchange rates. In the initial stage after the launch of the arrangement, there will be discounts provided by the settlement bank and the participating banks. We have looked at the rates already, and generally speaking, the exchange rates are more favorable than those for ordinary payments. But there would be a difference in the exchange rates offered by each bank. However, overall speaking, they are favorable. So please do participate. Go to Thailand and test it out yourself. What about a range? Can you give us a range of those exchange rates? We don't have a range for you. We only know that there will be discounts. The discounts offered would vary on a day-to-day basis because we are talking about real-time transactions. We did try to find out. I can tell you they are all on the positive side. Well, that's a commercial matter. However, I can't tell you specifically which bank offers the best exchange rate. I will attempt to answer your last question. The limit will be 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. You can't raise the limit on request. We will review our service after the launch of the linkage system and review with the stakeholders on the possibility of raising the limit. Let me give you the limit for tourists from Thailand. On the Thailand side, well, let me get back to you later. It would be comparable, equivalent to 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. Good afternoon, I'm from Ming Pao Daily. We don't know whether there will be other partners in the future under this arrangement. But can you tell us what are the potential partners other than PromptPay? Now, for some customers, some of them have local bank accounts with baht. At this stage, can these Hong Kong tourists use their BART account to settle the payments under the FPS and cross PromptPay system? And will all the banks begin launching this program starting from the 4th of December? Now, we have several countries like Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia with similar systems like PromptPay. We will keep an open mind and reach out to other potential partners after this arrangement has been run for some time. The priority now, however, is to make this linkage system work and let our tourists get used to the program first. Concerning whether Hong Kong tourists can use their BART account in Hong Kong banks to make payments, well, the short answer is no. We don't have a clearing system for BART in our Hong Kong banking system, so the payment must be made from a Hong Kong dollar bank account in local banks. The same applies to Thailand tourists. They can't use their Hong Kong dollar accounts in Thailand banks to settle the payments. The scheme will be launched on the 4th of December universally, but I would like to remind all users to update your mobile app first to ensure that the payment works. So if you already in Thailand, do use the Wi-Fi in your hotel to update your app first before attempting the payments. That would be more secure. Well, for some banks, they may only release the update version on the 4th of December. So it would be more secure if you are sure that your app is most up to date. Concerning tourists from Thailand to settle payments in Hong Kong by PromptPay, the maximum daily amount is 100,000 baht per transactions and 500,000 baht per day. That is because of the AML requirement concerning making purchase overseas. Based on their risk aversion, individual banks in Thailand can set a limit lower than that amount. Banks in Thailand can do that based on the risk concern. I'm from commercial radio. I don't know if I am understanding it correctly, since there is non-static QR code in Thailand. Well, what about internet merchants? If there are static QR codes on those websites, can I use this system to make payments? Would that create an opportunity for scammers? Because the good will come after I've made the payments rather than a face-to-face transaction. So will internet transaction be covered under this scheme? Theoretically, that will work, but scammers can use all kinds of methods to scam you. They don't require you to make a registration first. So the point is, we have to be careful, every one of us. You have to be sure that you can get the product or service you are purchasing. Well, non-delivery of goods or products has nothing to do with this system. You can wire your money, you can make payments via credit cards, or you can make payments via banks. Payments first and then delivery later is another whole realm of risk. That's not a risk pertinent to the payment system. So that's about purchasing from reputable merchants. If the amount involved is substantial, you should think twice before making the payment. Well, you shouldn't wire a large sum of money and just wait for the products to come. You have to be careful. So we can't prevent that from happening by improving our payment system. Henry? Thank you. Michael has just asked a question. I don't think you have answered that already. For Hong Kong tourists, do they have to activate their service first before making purchase, or do they simply have to update their mobile apps? Well, like Kitty said just now, it depends on individual banks and the e-wallet service they offer. As far as I understand, most of them do not require a registration. Well, if the payment doesn't work for you, you should check the setting. However, I don't think that is needed for most cases. I understand that some users cannot make payments in Hong Kong, even in Hong Kong, if they do not change their setting to allowing a small amounts payment. So that depends on the setting of the app. What you must do is that you must update your app, and then you must have internet connection. If the payment still doesn't work, the most likely scenario is that the merchant is not covered by the payment system. Well, if you can make payments for most merchants, but not for an individual merchant, that would most likely be the case. We welcome feedback from our users. Since this is a new system, we want to make it perfect, but it still needs tweaking and tuning.
I have another question. With ICL and Thailand MITMX, for linkage of the systems, does Hong Kong MA has to connect with the system in Thailand? What is the platform of linkage? Is that an open platform? As mentioned by Howard, Thailand is linking the PromptPay with 6 other countries. Would it be easy for you to expand the platform? Can you talk about the platform? Because we always say that we want to strengthen our cross-boundary payment with the Greater Bay Area. If we don't have a common financial infrastructure, then how can we connect with other cities, like cities in the Greater Bay Area? It seems that in short term we are unable to connect with any payment channels in the Greater Bay Area. Thank you. This is a bilateral arrangement. So FPS and NITMX will be linked. So it's not a form of platform. We have made a technical arrangements to provide foundation for further collaboration with other places. We can connect with other payment systems in other places with the existing infrastructures that we've built this time. Alex. I'm Alex. I would like to follow up on questions relating to deception. When Hong Kong people go to spend money in Thailand, they may come across difficulties when they're scanning QR code. When scam cases happen, can we only make complaints to, for example, police in the local cities? And do you have any mechanism to cope with the cases? On participating institutions, it covers Octopus Card, traditional banks, and SPF. There is no virtual banks included. What is the reason? Is it because of technical issues, or is it the case that the virtual banks opt not to participate because of internal reasons? Will you add some more banks to the list of participants? After connection of the two systems, will there be more Thai visitors coming to Hong Kong to spend, or will it be the case that the Hong Kong visitors will be spending more in Thailand? Let me take the question on deception cases. It depends on the modus operandi of the scammers. If you make payments in cash and credit cards, deception can happen as well. It depends on the nature. Sometimes scammers change the unit of product. It may not have to do with the payment methods. We will have to rely on the customer protection of bodies in the local jurisdictions. Say in Hong Kong, you will have to go to the Immigration Department and the Consumer Council. And in Thailand, you have to contact the relevant authorities. So it depends on if the deception has to do with base of doing business or payment methods. On virtual banks, as mentioned by Kitty, we are open. We accept all applications from banks and e-wallet operators. We welcome e-wallet operators and banks participating in the system. As to whether or not there will be more Hong Kong people going to Thailand to spend or vice versa, I think that there are more Hong Kong visitors going to Thailand. So if you would like me to make a guess, then I would think that there are more Hong Kong people making use of FPS in Thailand. But we will have to look at the consumption records after the implementation of the system. Thank you. Any other questions? If there's not, Sorry. You've put quite a number of questions. I would like to ask an unrelated question. Why is there only Hong Kong dollar and renminbi in FPS? We want to make a USD time deposit. It's troublesome for us. When will you have USD in FPS? And on the list, you have list of customer side participants. There are only 7 banks. Is this a preliminary banks or preliminary list? There are some banks missing. Do these 7 banks support the merchants as well? Why are there some banks that are not on the list? Is it because some banks will have to wait for the next stage? You're smart. You've answered your own question. Can you answer me the question on USD? We will have to look at the usage situation of USD. Some people make deposits in USD, but we think that allowing Hong Kong D and renminbi deposit in FPS is sufficient. I think that there will be a higher demand for Hong Kong D conversion. We believe that much of the demand has been met. We have some other plans. For example, if you have a USD check account, you can make use of that. I believe that there are other ways for you to make deposits in USD. Kitty perhaps will take the other question on page 5. Well, there are 7 banks and 2 e-wallet operators. For participants supporting merchants, there are 16 banks and 4 e-wallet operators. The reason why we don't have a list is that all banks and SPF operators are participating. That is why we are not listing the names. If necessary, we can provide you with the list of names. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. There's a QR code of the short video on the PowerPoint. If you like, you can scan the QR code to watch the video. On page 14, after scanning the QR code, you can watch the video.